دوستان درود بر شما. It's such a pleasure to see all of you here today. I see so many friends, some of which I haven't seen in a while. And I got to tell you, it is so heartwarming, the reception, not only here, but throughout the community that I have received over the past 12 months. The election is upon us. We're only 21 days away from Election Day. In fact, 21 days from today, at this time, I'll be on pins and needles because the polls will be closing in about 55 minutes. So as you can appreciate, campaigns get very, very busy. I've been fortunate enough to be blessed with a very strong campaign team. We've been knocking on doors in Richmond Hill. We've been around and knocked on every single door in Richmond Hill 3 times already. Wow. We're now going the 4th time. If that's not a record, I'm pretty sure it's close to a record, at least for this area. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot is at stakes with this election. We know what's happened over the last 4 years. It's been sadly quite traumatic for our country. We have a liberal government that has that promised many, many things and delivered very, very little. They started off saying that they're going to be investing in infrastructure with small little wee deficits of $10 billion a year for the first 3 years with a balanced budget in 2019. What we've seen is we're in the hole about $75 billion. The platform that they released as recently as just a couple of days ago calls for an additional $100 billion to be added to the national debt. Absolutely no foresight or planning for balancing the budget anytime in the future. This, of course, will have catastrophic effects not only for us, our families, but definitely for our children and our grandchildren, because we all know in this room, hard-working people, middle-class people, everybody working so hard to make go of it here in Canada. And we hear that at the door here in Richmond Hill. The number one issue that comes up at the doors, even in an affluent community like Richmond Hill, is the issue of affordability. If interest rates go up just 1% or 2%, you can imagine what's going to happen. Governments only have one source of income, and that's the taxpayer. That's all of you in this room, that's all of us. They'll have to come to us to get money to pay for that interest. We're already paying $2 billion a month in interest federally, an additional $1 billion a month provincially. That's $3 billion monthly. Imagine how many schools, how many community centers, how many subway stations, how many roads we can fix, how many roads we can expand with $3 billion a month. Unfortunately, the government has taken also some very drastic moves with respect to immigration policy, and it's something that's been coming up quite often at the doors. We had a very balanced, a very sustainable immigration policy in Canada that called for a breakdown of about 65% of the newcomers coming to Canada coming through our economic streams, 25% through family reunification, and 10% for, of course, humanitarian reasons, refugees and asylum seekers. In comes in Justin Trudeau. He thinks he knows better than everybody else. He opens the borders and we end up having a tremendous problem in Quebec, Montreal and Winnipeg and so many places across the country with people coming over from states like New York claiming asylum status and refugee status here in Canada. Another point that has been coming up consistently, of course, especially those of you that live in Richmond Hill would know this, and I think most of you do would know this, is the problem of transit and all this congestion we have up and down Yonge Street, which is a parking lot from 7 to 9 a.m. from 5 to 7 p.m. I'm proud to announce again today something that our leader announced just a couple of days ago when he was out west, that a Conservative government will come to the table with the provincial government that's already made the announcement here in Ontario to fund the subway to come up from Finch to Washington. There are so many things that we can do if we all work together. If we rely on just pictures and announcements and do nothing, as the Liberals have over the last 4 years, we end up with a state that we are here today. Look, many of you know my opponent. My main opponent in this election, of course, is the Liberal opponent. He is from your community. I am quite saddened by the amount of doors I have knocked on when people of Persian descent have said to me, we're embarrassed with this guy. That's what I've heard from people over and over and over. He is a person who has lost the respect of his own community. I don't want to go on about how he represented himself with his credentials and so forth, which were proven to be bogus, and he ended up apologizing and paying fines. I can tell you this, that he'll be the first guy to take the picture, he'll be the first guy to walk in front of the parade, he'll be the first guy to say, hey, look at me, me and Justin. But at the end of the day, people here in Richmond Hill are not getting the service they should be getting. I said in a previous gathering that we had with some of you who may recall this, that you were there. When you called my office when I was a member of Parliament, somebody answered the phone and said, hello, this is Kostas Menegakis' constituency office. How may I help you? You got a human being on the phone. The current MP, you call his office, press 1 for this, press 2 for this, press 3 for that. In an office with 2 or 3 people, you don't need to press 1, press 2, press 3. A constituency office is not IBM, where you have a receptionist and you have 1,500 employees in the building and you have to press all these buttons to get to the right person. You're there for service. I worked 80 hours a week when I was a member of Parliament for Richmond Hill, and that is my intention and my goal if I'm fortunate enough to be re-elected again on the 21st. I can tell you that for me, public service is a passion. I don't need this as a job. As many of you know, I'm a businessman with the grace of God. Politics is not my career. Politics is my passion. It's a service, it's giving back to the community. And as Michael Parsa, and many of you have heard me say many, many times before, any elected official sitting in a chair that doesn't belong to them, that chair belongs to you. It belongs to the people that gave you the right to sit in it. And when you forget that, and you think you're above them or no better than them, go home. Because this is not a job for you. You're here to serve and to serve people. So my pledge to you, and to everybody in Richmond Hill is that I will never forget that. I will be there for you, and I will work tirelessly for Richmond Hill. So thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for your support. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you all for being so warm and so accepting and so willing to support me one more time as we hopefully will be able to paint Richmond Hill blue once again on the 21st. Yeah. I do want to recognize my Persian brother who's in the room here with me. You all know him as the member of the provincial parliament for the great riding of Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill. To me, he's my Persian brother, my little brother. He's also better looking, Michael Parson. Michael, thank you as always for being here, my friend. And Michael, last Saturday, was out in the rain with me, knocking on doors, identifying supporters, helping, and I really appreciate you and your team and all the help you've been giving me tonight. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're honored to have amongst us one of the pillars of the Conservative movement here in Canada, certainly a founder of the Conservative Party of Canada. He has served this nation with dignity and respect. He is someone that commands respect, has earned that respect that he commands anywhere that he goes. He served as Canada's Justice Minister and Attorney General, as Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister, as Canada's Minister of Defence. He is a visionary when it comes to the Conservative movement, a leader to all of us, a mentor to a lot of us in the movement. Michael will attest to that. I can certainly attest to that. It is truly an honor and a privilege that we have with us today. And I forgot perhaps the most important title for him today of all, Nazanin's husband. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please help me give a warm Richmond Hill welcome to the one and only, the Honourable Peter MacKay.
What a kind and gracious introduction, and to all of you, to Michael Parsa, your provincial member, to Owen, to Ari, to all of you, I'm really delighted to be back in Richmond Hill. And I know, as spirited as that introduction was, it would have been standing room only had Nazanin come with me. I know that for certain. And I also know that, like all men, we marry up in life. And so I won the lottery when I met Nazanin. And so she asked me to bring her best. And she also, and I've shared this with Kostas already, Kostas helped Nazanin on a number of important occasions. Kostas has been a guy that I had the good fortune to work with in Ottawa, to see up close what he's capable of doing. His compassion, his authenticity, his work ethic. I dare say that of 338 members of Parliament in the House of Commons, nobody worked harder for their constituents than Kostas Manegakis. Open, available, and interested, and caring and compassionate for the issues. And whether they be transportation issues that he spoke of, whether they be international issues, of which he played a major role. I would often speak to him in the House or in my office when I was Foreign Minister, Justice Minister, even on defense matters. I remember coming here, Kostas, to make an announcement for a private member's bill that he championed through the House to protect service animals. Those that work with police and special forces and those who work with animals, a special and compassionate bill that passed. And that seldom happens in the House of Commons. But his perseverance and leadership were what got it through. Now, there's a lot of issues in this campaign, but Kostas has outlined the most important. We have a government that wants us to live beyond our means. My grandfather was a lumberman. He worked in a sawmill in Scotland. He came to Canada, started his own business, and he used to say, any government big enough to do everything for you is big enough to take everything from you. Persian people, Scottish people, Greek people, those who have come from around the world to this country want to work hard, but they want to have more of their own returns. They want to keep more of their own money. They don't want to give it to the government to decide how to spend it. And that's what we're seeing more and more. Socialism is the biggest failure of the 20th century. To look far around the world to see where it is failing, to have governments bankrupt their own countries, to spend billions of dollars. Can you believe this announcement this week, Kostas?
That's amazing.
We're canoeing across a river. We're going to give money for people to go camping. Are you kidding me? How about a breakfast program for children? How about improving our roads, our national security? How about putting money into basic infrastructure? How about a pipeline? How about a pipeline? Do you know why that's so important? Not only would we generate wealth and jobs and help bring Canadian resources to a world market so we could compete with Saudi Arabia, with Russia, with Iran, where we could sell them ethically produced Canadian oil and gas in LNG tankers going around the world, better than any sanction or NATO improvement. To put those regimes on their heels, we cripple their economies by selling our oil and gas to the world and creating billions in wealth to work on green technology, to improve the lives of Canadians, to make a better future for our children and grandchildren. That makes perfect sense. And by the way, we own the pipeline. So are we just going to sit on it? Are we just going to let it lose its value? This is something that makes perfect sense. And Andrew Scheer has talked about this openly. An energy corridor right across the country. This is a big idea. It's a bold idea. And Andrew Scheer, I can assure you, is a sensible, practical, caring man. He has 5 children. 5 children. I have 3. I don't know how he does it with 5 children. You know, I can say this certainly. Politics prepared me for parenting. Lots of screaming and yelling, unreasonable demands, and you're cleaning up somebody else's mess. But at the end of the day, Kostas is absolutely right. We're in this for our children. We're in this to leave a better world, a better country, something that we can be proud of. But we're falling back. This mantra in 2015 that Canada's back, where did we go? Had we closed our embassies? Did we bring all our soldiers back? Did all Canadians come back to Canada? Canada's back, he said, among other things that we know didn't turn out so well. We were going to have a balanced budget. We were going to change the electoral system. Oh, but the one thing that did happen is we got more marijuana into the hands of people. That was a great accomplishment, wasn't it?
Yes.
What a priority for our country.
Shame.
Shame. And yet we know we're going to see more of this under the Trudeau government. And I'm not going to spend any amount of time talking on it. But we saw the true face of Justin Trudeau. The true face. Not the face that he has been portraying himself as, the champion of minorities, the champion of children. The black face. That's what we saw from Justin Trudeau. And that is a disgrace. He's apologized for it. But you know what was worse? Where he had his hands. Do you remember where he had his hands? Like this?
Yeah.
And the groping. Feminists don't grope women. Those championing minority rights don't dress up in blackface. That's hypocritical. And then to lecture the world on moral issues. To tell them somehow that Canada has cornered the market on morality. How's that worked out for us? Have we got an agreement now with China? Are we in a better standing with the United States of America? We still don't have a free trade agreement. Did we capitalize on the free trade agreement that Ed Fast and our government championed with the European Union? Are we first in line with Great Britain for a trade agreement? Our economy is falling back. We are a high tax, high regulation, energy landlocked country who are losing pace. We are falling back. We're not going forward together. As the Liberal motto says, we are going backwards under this administration. And that's why we need to elect principled members of Parliament like Kostas Manegakis, who is experienced, who is committed to the issues of this constituency, but also has an eye on the broader world. Understands that regimes like those in Iran are not standing up for their people. We took a very difficult decision, I can tell you, when we closed the embassy in Tehran. That was a very difficult. And it wasn't, I can assure you, because there was a lot of conversation around my own supper table. It wasn't because we didn't understand the suffering of the people in Iran. It's because we know what the regime is doing in their oppressive and regressive efforts to keep the Iranian people down. We need to have a world response. We need to be able to rally other G7 countries, as Canada did when we ended apartheid in South Africa. That was real leadership at a time when the United States and Great Britain didn't want to do just that. It takes bold leadership. We're not seeing that. What we are seeing is drama. Drama. Words. Empty rhetoric. Promises unfulfilled. And so all of these big promises, what is it up to now? $25 billion uncosted. And all of the money that was promised just before the writ when the Prime Minister was campaigning on your dime. The question in the ballot box this time is, who do you trust? Who's ethical? Who's principled? Who's going to stand up for the values that you believe in and the reasons that many of you came to Canada? Another 4 years of this government, and I shudder to think what the country will look like. We are going back. When the Prime Minister said, Canada's back, no, we're going back. We're going off the rails. We're out of step with the world. That's not the country that we want. But we can take it back. By putting a conservative government back in office, we put the country back on track to a place we want to be, to a place our children will want to be part of, to a place where we can feel pride and purpose again in politicians. Because there is a very stark reality that people are losing faith and confidence in their representatives. And the only way that's going to be restored is if you have people like Michael and people like Kostas representing your community in the elected body of this country and this province. And so, I'm a private citizen now. It's nice not to have talking points or have to worry about, somebody saying, oh, you shouldn't have said this. I have free speech. Something that many countries don't enjoy. Free speech. And not just to be critical of the government. What we are hearing from Andrew Scheer, Kostas, and all of our candidates is a positive vision for the country. That's actually costed. That's sensible. That's practical. That's doable. And they're coming, the words are coming, and the platform is coming from leaders like Kostas who will see that we fill those commitments. That we don't forget them as soon as we're elected, or we don't walk away from every ribbon cutting and every photo op and just move on to the next and start blowing more money and more promises. We need to restore faith and confidence in politicians. And you have a chance to have a tested commodity, if I can put it that way. Somebody who has a proven track record. Somebody who you know will have somebody on the other end of the phone when you call. Will attend the meetings. Will show up. And will look for solutions. That's the key, is getting it done. It's not enough just to say it. It's about getting it done. And everything has a cost. Something I always remember a former premier from my province in Nova Scotia used to say. If your output exceeds your income, your upkeep will be your downfall. You can't spend more than you're taking in. And yet that's what we're seeing happening year after year after year. So, it's up to you. That's the beauty of it all. That's the beauty of democracy, is it's in your hands. And it's not going to be the media who are going to bring this message. They're bought and paid for. It's you. It's community people. It's social media. It's talking to your friends and neighbors. It's getting out there and having your voice heard. And Kostas is working so hard. I mean, imagine being 3 times to 110,000 citizens. That's an incredible accomplishment. And you've worn out at least 4 pairs of shoes, I know. 2 pairs. Those are brand new. So please, I'm asking you, as Canadians, as the Persian community, as people who I know care deeply about this country and think often of the people in places like Iran, like Afghanistan, like Saudi Arabia, many places who don't enjoy the ability to change their government. If we change this government, Canada can play a role in helping to change the world. That's the power. So Kostas, as just a final word, thank you for what you do. Thank you for somebody who has consistently shown courage and commitment, and he's doing it for all the right reasons. Kostas, I'm a big fan. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Peter MacKay, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much,
Merci.
Peter, for the
I don't have a lot of
inspirational words.
Persian, I'm sorry.
Thank you for the inspirational words. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. I know how busy you are. Thank you for articulating our conservative vision and our movement. I deeply appreciate it. I know every single person in this room appreciates it. I do want to recognize our EDA president and campaign chairman, Ted Leader, good friend who's here today. Especially because today is a high holiday for Ted. Today is Rosh Hashanah, which is their new year, the Jewish New Year. Shana Tova. Thank you for taking time away from your family to join us today. 4 young gentlemen. I want to recognize Ari Mogimi and Kaveh Shahruz for their help and their assistance. And, they're giving me a tremendous amount of help in the campaign, and for sure for getting us all together here tonight. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Now, the last person I'm going to introduce, or the second to last I want to introduce, is the person who's championing my campaign. I honestly believe I have the best campaign manager in the country, and that's Owen Macri. He's over there. He's working diligently hard from the wee hours of the morning until midnight every day. He's texting me at 12:30 in the morning, at 1 o'clock in the morning. We don't want to leave a door on the table, a vote on the table. So he's working very hard, helping me identify voters and making sure we get them out on the advance polls and on GoTV Day, on election day. So thank you, Owen, for all that you're doing. Now, as a way of introduction for the next speaker that will be coming up, I'm reminded of in a previous commitment in life that I had as a leader of the Greek community in Toronto. Many of you may not know, I was the president of the Greek community in Toronto for 10 years in a row. We had occasion to visit Washington on some very important Greek issues that we wanted to lobby the American government on. And we met with 44 senators and congressmen. And one of the congressmen at the time was then still living, was Ted Kennedy, who was an orator, who was a man that could command the room, that had the respect, and you hung on every single one of his words. So he spoke, and immediately after him, Senator Joe Biden was asked to come up to speak, and he came up, and of course after Ted Kennedy had spoken and he had risen, everybody rose up and gave him the standing ovation that lasted for about 10 minutes, believe it or not. Biden goes up and he says, look, when I came here this morning, I took the elevator coming up, and Senator Kennedy came up here was coming up with me, and he looked despondent. So I looked at him and I said, Senator, well, you look sad. You look upset. What's going on? He says, oh, I'm going upstairs. I'm going to this Greek event. I'm not prepared. I don't know what to say. So he said, I gave him my speech. That's what Joe Biden said, because how is he going to follow Ted Kennedy? Well, we have a similar situation here today. Okay? The next speaker is a good friend. You all know him. He's an up-and-coming star in the provincial legislature, and I'm sure down the road in the federal legislature. But he has the undaunting task of following the one and only Peter MacKay. Michael Parsa, please come on up and sit here.
This is short and sweet because, as you know, now you know who I was referred to, and that's very true. Very difficult act to follow. Two statesmen, two principled individuals who led this country with honor, integrity, and you were all a witness of it. I hate to tell you, but I told you guys 4 years ago that we need to go a different direction, but we didn't get it right then. We need to get it right this time. I just want to leave you with one thought. The architects, and you've heard me say this multiple times, the architects of the current federal government are the same individuals that ruled the province of Ontario. Take a look at the state of the province, of what they left us with, and take a look at what they've done in just less than 4 years in Ottawa. You'll have a clear indication as to why we need another conservative, another principled government in place to rule and to serve the people of Canada. That's why we need good people like Kostas back in Ottawa to serve the people. And I have to tell you this. As a member of Parliament for Richmond Hill, those of you that may not know, Costa was the member of Parliament here from 2011 until 2015. Costas would serve every single community, and he's absolutely right. When you called his office, there was somebody there picking up the phone to help us. But it was more than that. Costa Menegakis himself was there to help and serve the people. Record-breaking, Peter, when we went during Nowruz, I approached him early on when he got elected, and I said, there's a sizable community of the Persian community in Richmond Hill. You should get to know them, and we should be able to, you should be able to come to them and serve them as best as you can, to your capacity. And he said, what do you want us to do? I said, there's a Nowruz coming up. There are celebrations across the city. Could you join me? Costa, every single Nowruz, he and I would go to, I think we had a record-breaking 8 Nowruz events on the very first Nowruz that he came out to. He was such a popular guy because everybody got to know him. He was serving the people so well here. He was a household name in our community. Imagine that. So thank you very much for having such a great job, doing such a great job as a member of Parliament before. Thank you very much for being here to support our great friend. And thank you all. Now, you've heard two eloquent speakers and the Joe Biden of tonight. Hope you take this message to your neighbors and family and friends to remind them where you need to be. And I know I'm preaching to the choir again, but thank you all for being here to support Kostas, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully on the 21st as we send this guy back to take his chair back again.
There it is.